Okay, it's connecting us now, guys. So we're going to go live. If everybody can go off camera except myself and Barbara. Okay, great. I should be connected here to our Hidden Heroes community. We're so sorry we're running a little behind schedule, but we're going to get started right now. 1 second. Letting our participants join in here, and we're going to get started in just a minute.
Well, good to see you, Jasmine. And
yeah, good to see you too, Barbara. We are living in the age of COVID-19, so we apologize for the 5-minute delay here, just a little bit of technical issues. So fingers crossed, we'll get through this with a seamless internet here. All right, I see people joining in. We're so excited to get you guys on. Thank you so much for hanging with us here, and we're going to get started in just a few seconds. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So good afternoon and welcome, everyone. My name is Jasmine Alfonso, and I'm the manager of City and Community Initiatives for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. We are so excited that you're able to join us today for our webinar series, the Caregiver Community Connections C3, presented by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation and powered by our partners at the Wounded Warrior Project. Our goal is to bring military and veteran and family caregivers engaging content on important topics and provide peer connection and support opportunities. We're so very pleased to have the support of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs join us as partners on this series as well. Today's webinar, Creating Positive Vision Board Session, will feature author Barbara McNally. Barbara McNally is an author of Unbridled, a memoir, Wounded Warrior, Wounded Wife, and her recent book, Four Faces of Femininity. During her experience as a licensed physical therapist, Barbara has helped people from all walks of life, including veterans, military spouses, and caregivers recover and regain their strength. Before we get started today, I want to mention to all the attendees, this is a recorded broadcast, and we're always open to suggestions on future topics to discuss and speakers to feature. If you have any ideas, feel free to send them to us. We have a lot of information to cover today, but we'll take questions at the end of the webinar. Be sure to submit any questions using the Q&A box that's located at the Zoom control panel. I will be taking note of all the questions to make sure to get them answered live during the Q&A portion of today's programming. As an added bonus, we will be selecting 4 winners during this episode. Today's winners will receive a $25 Amazon gift card, Wounded Warrior Project journal, and Barbara McNally's book, Wounded Warrior, Wounded Wife. So we're super excited that we're going to be able to do this. We're going to be selecting 2 winners from our Zoom here, and we'll also be selecting winners from our Hidden Hero Caregiver community. So be sure to engage with us for your chance to win. And for those of you that are joining through our Facebook community, welcome. Please submit any questions you have by commenting on the video of today's recording, and we'll make sure to be engaging with you, and that way you can be active participants in today's webinar. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming author, women's advocate, Barbara McNally, as we get started today. Barbara, thank you so much for being with us today. We're so thrilled to have you here.
well, thank you for having me, and I'm excited to talk about how we can have a positive vision for this holiday.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I want to start by discussing your books. I was one of the lucky ones who got the book ahead of time before our winners. And reading this weekend, I have to say, Barbara, it's so powerful to hear all of these stories from the military spouses, from the caregivers, and the way that you were able to tell all these different stories throughout each chapter. And just your role that you play by having what you call spa days, which I'll let you go into. And it was just really inspiring and powerful. And the thing is, I work with caregivers on a daily basis, and I felt like reading your book, I learned even more than I thought I already knew. And I would just love for you just to share your experience as an author. What is it like to capture these stories, and what does it mean to you to be able to tell these stories to others, to really educate people on who military and veteran caregivers are, who these military families are, and how these spouses and family members have been affected by those that went off to serve?
Right. Well, that's why I chose the title Wounded Warrior, Wounded Wife, because whenever there's a wounded warrior, there is a wife whose life has been changed drastically too. And just like when our child falls off their bike, we feel the pain, and we feel the pain when our spouses are wounded. And these women are young and not expecting to be caregivers. So their lives have changed tremendously. I started Spa Day, support, purpose, and appreciation, like 10 years ago now. No, actually 14 years ago, at the Hotel Del, where women could come and get a reprieve, get a massage or a facial, a nice lunch. And we had resources come and speak so that they could recharge, so that they could go home and care for their spouses. I found that there weren't a lot of resources 15 years ago, but now there are a lot. And being a physical therapist, I didn't see a lot at that time. But one day, what inspired me to actually write the book was I was driving across the Coronado Bridge, and the car in front of me stopped. A young guy got out. I found out he was a veteran, jumped off the bridge like it was a military maneuver, his last. And there was nothing I could do but call 911. But I was thinking, I have all these beautiful stories and inspiration from the women I've met, and not everyone can come to Spa Day in Coronado. So I wrote their story so they have a voice and they can share and connect us all, wounded warriors and their wives, with the inner resources these women find and the outer resources to heal, because we're all on that journey across the bridge. We're all on that hero's journey, and we either get the resources we need from within, or somebody out there helps us to get across that bridge. And that's what we're here for today, to help all of us. And you are the hidden heroes. You're still the heroes. You are on your own hero's journey. And I want to give all of you a voice to share your stories.
Barbara, that's incredible. And in reading your book, you really are able to capture all of their experiences and really share out in such an inspiring way that really helps you to understand who these hidden heroes are. And I thought you just did that in such a wonderful way. And in The Wounded Warrior, Wounded Wife, you show readers an intimate look into the chaotic and demanding lives of military spouses and caregivers as they adjust to living with injured combat veterans. And in your book, you really make it known that these spouses and caregivers have no training, no support, and that they're left to handle it all on their own. We hear this all the time, and this is what the Elizabeth Dole Foundation was founded on by Senator Dole, really creating this foundation to create some sort of support mechanisms to help out these hidden heroes. What comfort do you think your book can offer to those caregivers and spouses who are currently struggling with how to handle it all, especially in the midst of a pandemic?
Yes, well, I think the biggest takeaway is we're not alone. And as Angelina Mayo says, there's nothing worse than an untold story. And we're here to connect and hear each other's stories. And that brings our humanity out. It brings our, as Brene Brown would say, our vulnerability. And you're not alone out there. And thank you for taking the time off that hamster wheel of life to actually sit down for an hour, especially during this busy season. I really commend all of you women who are doing that today to take a look and get the support you need, taking time to nurture yourself so that you can go out there and be the best person you can for this holiday season, the healthiest person.
What really touched me, Barbara, is that you talked about how when you're having these spa days and you're with all these military spouses and caregivers, how comfortable they seem to be sharing their stories. And a lot of the stuff they were sharing is very intimate details. And it could be hard to, I feel like even in small incidents, even for myself, I find it very hard to share in that way. And you even said in the book that, you know, maybe if I would have shared some of the things I was dealing with before, maybe it would have helped me heal faster. What do you think the benefit is? And this is why we have this Hidden Hero Caregiver community, our online Facebook page, our fellows, we're always telling them to connect with one another because that really does make a difference. What is your experience in that sense? Like, why is connecting and speaking to others about your shared experiences so important in terms of growing and in terms of really understanding what you're dealing with and having that community?
Yeah, we need the support, especially because one of the signs, what is PTSD? It's a bucket full of unwept tears. And some of the symptoms are, depression, anger, isolation, suicide. And I call it PTS shrapnel. But us women can be pulled into that and get these same symptoms. And the best way is to get out of our isolation. By getting out of our isolation and connecting, we see we're not alone, and maybe there's no one better than the caregivers and the spouses that know what would help their husbands get out. And it may be fly fishing, it may be, well, thinking of gifts for Christmas, I was thinking it may be the guitar, maybe music. We want to get them out of isolation and find something they enjoy in life. But before we can do that, we have to be healthy ourselves and keep care of ourselves and make sure we don't, we say we drown being the anchor for everyone else. So we have to keep healthy. And this is a chance for you women to stay healthy and connect and reach out for help, because if we're not healthy, we can't help anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like you covered that really well. I'd like to tap into something you just said there. What do you think it is about, since women are the nurturing ones, we handle so much sometimes we take on so much, and as caregivers, military spouses, it's almost like you almost compartmentalize it and you just keep taking it on, and sometimes not even thinking of how much you have on your plate. It's just taking it day by day to get through it. What advice can you offer to those that are just taking it day by day, trying to figure out, trying to pull all this together? How can we even find time within a caregiver schedule to even think about time for themselves when they are constantly thinking about their kids, their veteran, and now in the pandemic, some of them are, virtually teaching their children. Now they're the teacher as well as the provider. It's a lot of hats to play. So what recommendation can you give in that sense, or what solace can they find in your book to help them with those that are dealing with these type of similar challenges?
Well, not only the book, but today, I guess I want to focus on vision boards. Who has time to write a vision board, right? Especially if you're at home, who has time to think about our life goals for the next 5-10 years? It could be overwhelming, but I love how you said, or Shayna said, well, just let's think about the holidays. That's an easier pill to swallow. And the fun thing about a vision board is it is fun. It's not like, write down your goals on a piece of paper. It's more, let's have fun. Let's, whether it's Pinterest or cutting things out, and we can even let our kids participate too as role models. When they see us planning our life, being the hero of our own lives, that is the best inspiration to anyone around us, that we are the inspiration to others because we're taking control of what we can control. So I divided it in a new way into mother, lover, warrior, sage. And we'll get to the sage part. The mother is the nurturing, like you said. So how am I going to nurture my spouse? And just think of what you want to do, not a million things. Let go of what you don't want to do. How do you want to nurture? And how can we nurture ourselves? That could be, some spas are open. It could be yoga, even online. It could be prayer, meditation. How can we recharge ourselves? And a good way to say it is saying, honey, I need to do this for my mental health. I'm taking this hour, and you are going to be okay for this hour, and I will be back, and tell them the time and come back. I used Four Faces of Femininity. Let me kind of show you this, my latest book. But I chose mother roles. And one of the roles that inspired me, and you asked, how can these women get out of them, find this inspiration? Think of somebody that has a mother figure that you admire. So I chose Anne Sullivan, and I was thinking about today, most of us know Helen Keller. She was deaf, blind, and dumb. very famous, and sort of like our Wounded Warrior, the main character. But who was behind Helen Keller? It was Anne Sullivan, Helen Keller's teacher. When I read her book, that inspired me to go into physical therapy and help others. So who inspires you to be a mother figure? It could be Oprah Winfrey. Just think, maybe it's someone in your own life. And then as a lover, who inspired? The lover is our playful fun side, right? And surprisingly, a lover that I think of is Mother Teresa. And why she's a mother? Well, she's a lover of humanity. And she says we can't do great, all of us can't do great things, but we can all do small things with great love. And how do you want to love this holiday season? We can't do everything, but pick of how you want to love and how you want to make it playful and fun, and a sense of humor. That's the lover too, because we can't be stressed and angry and laughing at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I love what you said. You said being the heroes in your own life. That's a really powerful statement, as we call them hidden heroes, but it's so true. You kind of have to take the reins in and be that example. Because if you're out of sorts and you don't take that time for yourself and you don't focus on that, then how others can see that? You need to have that time to decompress, like you said, and think about, which is going to be great with this vision board activity, which we're going to get to in the second half, to really think about what you want this holiday season. I know for myself, thinking about everything that has gone on with COVID and the pandemic, even though I see my husband all the time now, more than ever, I feel like there's not actually quality time. I feel like actually we've had less of that given everything. So having a smaller holiday and having time where it's not focused on the in-laws and everybody else, and it's actually a time where we can focus on each other and our marriage, which is very, I feel like, that given everything that's going on and everybody's worries, that we haven't had that time to connect. So I think with my vision board, that is what I put up on mine, is just having that time to really focus on that. So I hope with our activity, those are things we can start thinking about. I also put baking in there, because who doesn't want to bake more? As if we need any more treats during this pandemic, but I'm definitely excited for that too. I wanted to ask you a few more questions that I thought were really important to mention in your book. You discuss PTSD and how it really tears families apart. Can you share with the audience of ways that other caregivers and military spouses that you mentioned in your book are able to cope with PTSD and the ever-changing family dynamics, and what you think our audience members should constantly remember as they're dealing with something like this?
Well, I think I mentioned, self-care, and reaching out for help. Suicide's huge over the holidays for the whole population, not just military, but there are resources through your organization. And of course, in the book, I list a lot, but we have Operation Family Caregivers Counseling. We have Hearts of Valor have support groups. The VA has support groups. So really stay connected, so that if you see signs that, somebody needs to intervene, that you have that source, that button to push right away. Not being isolated is a good way. And I hate to use the word not enabling, but we have to keep care of ourselves, and taking that time. We never know if it's calling wolf. Oh, you can't leave me. Well, we need to take that time. And if we feel like we're not allowed to take that time, that's a more reason why we need to reach out to somebody. And you're a great resource.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, the foundation has a lot of resources around that. And it's true, the holidays can be a triggering moment for our veterans, and not just our veterans ourselves. It can be very stressful, which is why when we go through this holiday vision board activity, this could be an opportunity to reset some of those holiday stresses and figure out what those wants and needs are and what you actually can control. So we're excited to dive into that. But before we do, I would like to introduce somebody here that's going to be joining us today, our very own Dole Caregiver Fellow representing Ohio, Ida Carson. So Ida Carson actually reached out to us to have you on, Barbara. So we're so excited that she reached out to us and suggested having you on, as she thought it would be super impactful to have you be a part of this community and for them to hear more about you, and especially given your books. So Ida, I'd like to have you turn on your video here and welcome the audience. But a lot of you may know Ida already. She is very big in our caregiver community, but just a little about those that don't. For those of you that don't know her, she became a caregiver when her husband was diagnosed with cancer in 2008. In 2012, her son returned from war and she was there to help him get through that tough time. Her son began to show signs of stress and had a relentless migraines. And Ida knew something was different. She couldn't put the finger on it, but days later, her son began to show signs of traumatic behavior and depression as he was turning from war with the loss, and it was something they weren't expecting. He is coping with his hidden wounds and surface scars, and Ida is his caregiver and is there to provide him with that support, and is really a support to her whole family, and has been a huge advocate within Ohio and throughout our Dole Caregiver Fellows, providing support not only to her own family, but to other caregivers who have been through what Ida is currently go through and what she has. And so we'd love to bring her in here today and say, Ida, first, thank you so much for bringing Barbara to us. And thank you for everything that you continue to do throughout your advocacy for caregivers within Ohio and beyond. And we're so grateful to have you be a part of this conversation.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate being here. And I am just so elated to continue to tell my story and how Elizabeth Dole Foundation has truly changed my life. I just wanted to point out that I am the Dole Fellow for 18 and 19. We have a fabulous 2020, Miss Jerry. So I definitely did want to take her fire. I love her tremendously. I had the honor of being invited to a caregiver retreat. And at the retreat, prior to us going, we had prerequisite homework. They sent us the book of Barbara McNally and wanted us to read it prior to us coming. And I was saying to myself, there's no way I've got time to read a book before trying to prepare to go away to this retreat. But I took the time. I made it a point to take the time. And I tell you, I would say even 2 chapters into the book, I just began to weep. Not weep because the stories were so heartfelt, but just weep that the fact that these women were opening up and telling their stories and they had courage. And I was thinking to myself, how can they, who in the world has gave them this platform to tell their story? And as I read through the book, it really touched me. And I began sharing the information about the book before I even got to the retreat and had the opportunity and the privilege to meet Miss Barbara. I looked at her from day one as not only my mentor, I claimed her as my mentor. I claimed her as my coach. I claimed her as a champion before that retreat was over. And I just literally drew closer to her just in that weekend. And it was like she was speaking my language. She was saying the same things I was saying. Oh, self-care is so important. And then I thought to myself, a lot of times we want to self-care. However, that's never been priority for us because we have to take care of our wounded warrior. But as I began this journey and learned that you cannot be an effective caregiver if you do not take care of yourself. And through that retreat, listening to her teachings, listening to the women comment about her book and how she just spoke into my life. And I literally cried the night before the retreat was over because I knew that I had to go back to everything I was dealing with. But the fact that, it was ending the time that I had spent with her. And she did a little bit more than just speak to us that weekend. She built a relationship with some of us, and I am one of the witnesses of her relationship. And I know Nalita is one of the ones who she formed a relationship with. So I'm just honored to be in her presence. I'm honored because not only did the Wounded Warrior, a Wounded Wife book, the Four Faces of Femininity, this really did something to me. I read this and I had to give a background on, what was it, Amazon. They wanted feedback. And it was just so hard. And as I'm doing the feedback, everybody who know me know I'm so emotional. As I'm doing the feedback, tears just running down my eyes, but just trying to put it in just that little bit amount of space of how this book yet impacted me. Because I felt like not only was I a mother, I was the lover, the warrior, and the sage. So I just want Barb to know that I truly appreciate you and what you're doing for the caregivers, the wounded warriors, the hidden heroes everywhere. And I just appreciate you and just the opportunity of you being my mentor and my coach.
Awesome. Thank you, Ida, for sharing that.
That was amazing, Ida. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now we are going to get into the second half here, which I know people are eagerly, and we're getting a ton of questions, Barbara. So I want to make sure we have plenty of time for the end here to ask you those questions. But as we were talking about vision boards before we came on, Ida, before we start getting into the segment, I'd like to ask you about the visioning session and why you felt that vision boarding has also helped you and how you utilize this tool that Barbara had suggested to you so long ago.
Well, what it did to me, it made me focus on the things that was important to me. You know, a lot of times for some of us, we don't have time. I'm just using this as an example. Makeup and all that stuff that used to be important to you. You know, I worked in retail for 30 years. So part of my job was training women on how to wear makeup, fragrance, and how to wear their clothing. So when I came out of that and had to leave my job to take care of my husband and my son, part of me didn't do those things anymore. But doing the vision board, it allowed me to focus on things that I had control of. Even though I wasn't putting that lipstick on, lipstick was my favorite piece of makeup. So it was important to me. Perfume, fragrances, it took me to another place. So it kept me focused and it let me know that the things that was once important to me can still become important to me. And those are things I have control of.
Well said.
Perfect, perfect. So now I'd like to talk about a little bit more deep dive into vision boarding. Barbara, can you talk about how you have used this tool? I know we're only having a mini version today, just a little more about vision boarding as a whole and how you've demonstrated this tool throughout your work.
Well, let's make it fun. I'll see if you can see. It's always nice to see a vision board, but here's an example of one.
Oh, I love that.
So I did it. You don't have to do it in categories, but I did it by mothers. Who inspires me as a mother, and how do I want to nurture, and who do I want to nurture? As a lover, who inspires me to be spontaneous and fun, or even sexy, like Ida says, and put together, because we always feel better when we're put together, right? Who inspires me, and what do I want to focus on? That's great. And then the fighter. That's not all of us went to combat, but we all have that ability to set goals and reach them. What are our goals, and who inspires us? Everybody loves Wonder Woman. I'm not sure if you can see her, but she does it all. She's a cartoon. Your kids probably watch Frozen. She's the hero of her life. Who do we admire that's the fighter and reaches her goals? And then lastly, the sage. Who inspires us to tap into that inner wisdom within us? Hopefully we all become wise through the years, but in the book Four Faces, and when you write your vision board, we don't have to be old to be wise. I use the example of Malala, Pakistan. She was shot for wanting an education, and she's the youngest woman to ever receive a Nobel Peace Prize. And she knew within her that she had a calling and she wasn't going to stop. and she's, helping women get an education all over. So the sage is like, what difference can we make? What is our calling? And maybe put that down, even if it's just for the holidays. What's our calling? Who can we really, what's our platform, and how do we want to use it? Even if we just do it for this holiday season. And the sage is also, as I said, the wise, intuitive side. And you were talking about spending time to rejuvenate. So I use the sage for that too, whether it's meditation, or Ida can share her spiritual side. It's our spiritual side. And how do we tap into that intuition, that wise woman? And the only way to do that is to get off that hamster wheel and take a few minutes to set our day. It could be a gratitude journal. How do you want to tap into that sage so that you can be the lover and be the nurturer and reach your goals during this holiday season?
Those are some really great suggestions. I like how you broke it up into those buckets. Ida, I'd love to hear about your vision board and what has helped you to visualize that a little more. What is on there? I know for mine, I actually want to break it down now into the buckets that you talked about, Barbara, because I actually think I didn't focus on a lot of those as well. I focus on the small aspect of what I wanted to focus on this holiday season, but I'd like to create a bigger one as I start thinking about the new year that really focuses on that, because especially given everything that's going on in our lives, are constantly online now, and everybody feels like everywhere. It just feels like with the pandemic, so much has grown in that sense that I don't even know. A gratitude journal sounds like a great place to start and start thinking of just exactly what I want, especially with this new year coming around where everybody's thinking about resolutions. But I feel like in this pivotal time, it's the most important time to really reflect about those things that you need and what you want to envision for next year. And not only that, just for yourself.
Well, I would say with my board, I did too, but the one small one that I had, I put on those things that meant something to me. Exercise, it's, I just start walking this year, and those are things that mean something to me. I put in a picture of a tub of bath soak, just to be able to soak my joints. Those were important to me. Of course, my lipstick. And then just some affirmations that I had of things that was important to me that I had control over. These are things I can do. I can go and get a lipstick. I can go and, get the bath soak. I can do exercise, take that walk around my complex, but doing things that I can have control of over doing them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thinking about things that you do have control over. And we just got a really great question that came in too about picking out what to include in your vision board. Should we think small? Should we be thinking big of what we want for our vision? Should we do it day by day? What do you recommend, Barbara? Or is it to everybody to figure out what works out best for them? I feel like I work best with creating small goals and then having one big one that I want to accomplish for next year. But I can never be one of those people that puts in like a vision board with just like all really big goals, because I feel like that's too much for me that I feel like I know I'm not going to be able to accomplish them all. So what do you suggest in that sense? How do we pare it down and create something that we actually feel like tangible that we can do?
Well, that's a good question. And the most important thing, I think, is to let our right brain, our creative fun side function. And that's what a vision board's for. So it's not concrete like writing. It's supposed to be fun. And there's no right or wrong, and nobody's grading you for it. And that's what makes it fun, because we can put out there into the universe, like the law of attraction, what we want. It may come in a different form than we put the picture, but the idea is out there. So it can be very vague. It doesn't have to be concrete. If you have a concrete goal of writing a book or going to school, put that on there, definitely, and that encompasses all four. That's got to be your passion. You've got to want to do it. It's going to be nurturing yourself, so that it's going to be that goal setter, and it's also going to be your calling. So if you have a concrete goal, definitely put it on there. If right now you're feeling overwhelmed and you don't have a concrete goal, just that's part of our intuition. Just have fun with it, and put it out there. There's no right or wrong. And of course we can always do another one for the new year. I do one every year because I like to start out, thinking about what do I want, because like the hero's journey, if we don't know where we want to go, we're just going to be a ship lost at sea. We're never going to get there. So it's good to put something out there, and then things may come into our life to change, but start with just what do you want? That's a good way, and that's a good start.
I love that. And I have a question for you too, Barbara, because when I think about setting goals and creating your vision board, like I can pull out that creative side, I can put it all together, but I feel like, and I'm probably not alone in this, the minute I feel like I'm not reaching that goal, or I say it is fitness and I miss a week, or dieting or something that you think that's tangible, and then you're like, you know what, I ruined it. And how do you like getting back to focusing on your vision, because we will derail. And I feel like sometimes when people derail, they see that as immediately failure. And when you fail, you feel like there's no point in trying again. So what do you recommend, especially given all the tosses and turns that are happening with this pandemic, for people to keep their eye on the prize? And even if you do derail, how do we get back on track?
Well, I like 2 mantras we could put on our vision board: progress, not perfection.
Oh, I like that.
And an idea, we're not perfect, no black and white thinking. Like, none of us are perfect, and perfectionism, what is the enemy of going forward? So we can't be perfect. So I think it's just that if we get closer to that idea, and that idea, maybe don't be so hard on ourselves. Start out, like you said, with baby steps. What's a small goal or a small vision? And maybe it's even not necessarily a picture of us in a bikini or lingerie, but like Ida said, the lipstick, and being healthy, a picture of us playing with our kids, that we're healthy enough to do that, or healthy enough to play tennis with our spouse. Like, why do we want to be fit? We want to be fit. So for what activity? What do we, even going back to sexuality, it doesn't matter our body size, but it matters what we feel about ourselves. So for some of us, it's lingerie. For some of us, it's, I don't know, being tan. For some of us, just health. Some of us, it's lipstick. What makes us feel sexy and fun, and reward ourselves, and let's do that.
I think you're just hitting it right there as you think about your vision too, about, when you talk about, the how you feel about yourself, and that impacts your sexuality, how you're dealing with things within your marriage, your relationships. If you don't feel good about yourself, I know when I'm feeling not great about myself, whether I feel like I gained weight, or I don't feel feel vulnerable because of the way I look, or you break out, little stuff, it like completely can impact your entire mood. And
Right.
And it gets into your head. And as women, I feel like it really gets into your head. You're like, you can easily be the most confident person and go from being the most, lacking self-confidence, and being like constantly like, oh my gosh, I just feel so terrible about myself, but I really don't. But it's just that those little incidences that really you need to just like take out of your mind. So I really like that recommendation into focusing on that, as more, instead of putting that bikini picture, really thinking about like what you want to feel instead of what you want to look like. What do you want to feel like? What do you want that will make you happier throughout your day to day? And maybe that is the picture of just being able to, having the ability to play tennis, having the ability to work out and to do certain things. So I really like reframing that, because so often I feel like we put a goal as somebody else, saying like, I want to look like that, or I want to be like that. I feel like we do that a lot as women. So I feel like that really helps me to think about like, maybe I should not be viewing everything in that way. And I should be putting it in a more tangible thought process to say like, that is what I want to feel good about this. And this is what I know will make me feel good.
Right. And maybe think of somebody you admire and put that person, like, not because they look like you, but like Madonna is one of my inspirations at my age, just because she keeps reinventing herself. Yeah. I don't look like Madonna. I don't dance like Madonna, but I kind of have her attitude that I'm not going to give up and just be one person, and a little old lady in a rocking chair, So that's what her picture says to me, but someone else, it might be Dita Von Teese, or I don't know, somebody just, it's kind of like how they decide to play out their life.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think we can do that in a way that's not, it's okay to look at, a celebrity or somebody, a sports figure or something like that, to say, okay, I really like the way this person's, looking or present or putting out there at themselves, to like build that confidence. Sometimes that can help us grow as well. And it doesn't have to be, I want to look like that person, but you want to feel good in that moment, like that person did, at least to your perception, that person did in that moment. So I think changing that conversation is so good and healthy. And I'm already thinking about it for myself. I need to redo my entire vision board.
Yes, I know. Exactly.
Exactly. Well, perfect. I want to get to, we have so many questions that have come in, so I'm going to allow for a little more time of questions. But before we jump to that, is there anything else, Ida, that you would like to include, or Barbara, before we jump into a lot of these audience questions that are coming in?
Well, again, I just like for the ladies to know that the vision board, to me, it also, it almost like sets a standard for you, things you can't get to, write them down. That's what I keep my little journal for, just keeping notes and writing them down, and you can go back to them. But I like to visit it at least once a month, just my notebook, what I have in there. Now, I may not do the vision board every month, but at least put the notes down, and then I can go back and look at it, revisit it, and then start on the vision board. But ever since Barbara had taught us that at that retreat, I make it a point that I have a vision board. And now I teach my granddaughters, the ones that's in college now, to do their vision boards.
Absolutely. I'm also thinking, Barbara, too, as I'm just thinking all this through as we're having these conversation of creating a vision board. You can even create a vision board within your marriage. Like, what do you want to see? And, or in a relationship that you're having, maybe creating a vision board together. Is that something that, have you ever seen that as well? Of something that you can come up with those types of visions of where you want to see certain things going?
That's great. A lot of men are, taught to be tough and not bring out that nurture and that lover. They're the warriors. And so I think we can lead by example. When we're vulnerable and we show what we want with our vision board, maybe they might come along. But that's the hard part, to get through that shell of talking about feelings and what we want. And the only other thing I wanted to share before all these questions is the mother, the lover, the warrior, the sage, they're archetypes. Carl Jung called them our collective unconscious. So they're all within us, and it's just tapping into it. So when we see it in somebody else, we can tap into that characteristics ourselves. And that's, you have it within you to reach those goals. You have it within you. So I think it's great to put other people we admire on the vision board. Doesn't mean we want to become them. It means that we have that quality. And I have Tina Fey, the comedian, because I want to laugh at myself, and she just reminds me, don't take myself too seriously. And so having a comedian that you admire or somebody that makes you laugh is a great one. It's like, let's not take all this too seriously. Let's have fun and play. That's, important part of keeping us young.
Yes.
I love that so much. Well, let me dive into questions here. But before we do, I just want to announce some of our winners that, again, are going to win the $25 Amazon gift card, Wounded Warrior Project Journal, and your very own copy of Wounded Warrior, Wounded Wife. I apologize if I mess up in pronouncing your names. So we have Isa Marie McTry, Teresa Bauer, Sherry Piper, and Kayla Van Burskirk. So we'll be sending those out within the chat box here to reach out to you all for those winners. So congratulations. And for those of you that we picked through our Hidden Heroes online community page, we'll be commenting to you right now to make sure to get your email and your address to get these shipped over to you. So now I'm excited to dive in on some questions here. Here we go. Can you please tell us again what SPA Day stands for, Barbara?
Support, purpose, and appreciation. The support is everyone coming together. So we don't think we're just goofing off. There is a purpose. It's to find resources for your family and yourself. And the appreciation is to say thank you. You're our hidden heroes. Thank you for being caregivers and all the work you do. As much as we thank our military who served away, we thank you for serving at home.
Great. Thank you so much. So our next question here is comes in from Issa, who says, thank you, Barbara, for sharing. As a caregiver of a double amputee and a combat veteran myself, I'm curious as to why you decided to focus on women caregivers for your book. Sometimes women are the wounded veteran and the caregiver is the male spouse.
That's a great question. And I do have a chapter on wounded women. One of the wounded women that I highlight is Tammy Duckworth.
Yes.
And she was a warrior. She's an example of a warrior. And I think I said this before, you know, she gave her a platform. She's our congresswoman now. Yes. And she's the first woman that breastfed during a Congress meeting. And, you know, so she's definitely a fighter. Definitely. And one key, though, that she did is her husband never quit his job. He never stayed home. And he kept care of himself, and that was healthy for their marriage. So I think that is one of the lessons we take away is men are less likely to quit everything and just care for you. And maybe we should keep, you know, let them heal on their time. We don't have, sometimes it's good for us to step back and work on ourselves and our careers and let them heal at their pace. And when they want to do a vision board, come along. You know, when they want to go outside for a walk, let them come along. But I did have women. There are women wounded warriors, and I do have a chapter in there. But most of our caregivers are women, so that is why I'm focusing on that today. And I'm an advocate for women. So.
Well, perfect. Another question here that comes, should you have two separate vision boards, one with big goals and one with little boards?
Well, whatever you have time for, you know, start somewhere. That's all that matters. Like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. So whatever you feel comfortable with, if you have the time and the energy to write, I do have a professional vision board, and kind of with my book, you know, writing a book, you could do a whole vision board on how you want to write a book. You know, what's the working title? And then just put, what do you want to put in it? What's the journey? What pictures do you want to put in your photo album? So there's so many different types of vision boards. Just start with one and go from there.
Perfect. So another question comes in that says, having time to be our own heroes. Wow. That is something the new EDF respite program can help with. We did not put that in, but yes, it can, the new respite program. Now, what do I do about the guilt that comes with that? Having time for yourself. I would hate to not be there when or if my wounded warrior and husband needs me. How do I deal with that guilt in order to get the respite that I so desperately need?
Well, as we said before, if you don't keep care of yourself, you're going to drown and you will become disabled, whether it's addictions to food, drugs. You can't go 24/7. You have to take time for yourself. And how I've learned to get over the guilt is saying, I need this for me. And that's the warrior setting healthy boundaries, and make sure to give them the time you are gone. And there is respite care. If you feel like you can't leave them for an hour, there is respite care for someone to come stay with them. And they may be upset, but they, just like a child, when you leave a child, they're upset when you go, but you come back a better mom and they're fine for that hour. You have to trust that they're okay when you leave for the hour. And that might mean hiring help or getting a neighbor to come over. But you have to keep care of yourself. Otherwise you will drown, you will leave the marriage, you will quit. So you have to somehow feed yourself so you can feed your children.
Right. I think that's a perfect way to put that. Thank you, Barbara. Another question here is, how can you connect with your warrior who has severe depression, alcoholism, PTSD, and blames you for everything? My husband doesn't talk to anyone but his friends sometimes, so I don't know what to do.
Well, definitely professionally counseling. I'm a big advocate of self-care and counseling. It's a great tool, and there is counseling available through Operation Homefront. And maybe Jasmine, you know of other free counseling, whether it's through the VA or your organization. But yeah, we can't change other people. We can only change ourselves. And if he's so depressed, we need help ourselves. And there is a chapter in Wounded Warrior, Wounded Wife, to stay or to leave. There are some women who can't stay in the marriage. And there's a lot of guilt in that, obviously, leaving a marriage. I've left my marriage. So you have to keep care of yourself. And it sounds like you need counseling, which I've gone to, and I'm an advocate for counseling.
Absolutely. Great. So that some more questions are coming in here. Let's see here. Barbara, by any chance, do you know how many women are caregivers for their father or caregivers that are not married?
Oh, wow. I don't really know the statistics of that. Maybe I think the Dole Foundation can get back to you on that. They're really good with statistics of how many 5 million, caregivers we have. And so many of them I know are younger than 30, are working inside the home, are isolated and have no support system. And that's why we're offering this. And Elizabeth Dole Foundation is so great about that.
Well, thank you so much, Barbara. Yes, and I will say our contact information is here for those of you that are in need of help or do want to find out where you can get that free counseling or more information, and we can connect you to our partners or other organizations that do work with that. Please always reach out to the foundation, as you're not alone, and we're always here to help you with any types of your needs, whether it's emergency needs or just immediate ones. So please do feel free to reach out. Barbara, before we close out here, in Ida, I would love it if the two of you could share your final thoughts, anything else you would like to share with the group that will be coming up. So feel free to share out your final thoughts, and then we're going to close out here.
Well, I just would like the caregivers to know that you are supportive. I'm here for you. Just a phone call or a click away. We are our brother's keeper. And I just want you to know it's just so important. You have to take care of yourself, because if you don't, you are not going to be able to take care of your wounded warrior. So just don't give up. Remember, write little notes and start your board, and don't give up.
That's great. I just want to say in closing, yeah, we're not alone, and there's no greater pain than holding a story inside. So reach out through Facebook to other caregivers and have fun with this vision board, and find a way to have joy in this holiday season, because life's short.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barbara and Ida, for being with us today. I will say that before we close out, you still have an opportunity to submit your vision board through our Hidden Heroes online community. Shayna, who leads our online community, is going to be posting more about this. So feel free to submit your vision board, ask any questions that you have there, and connect with the community. Talk about your wants and needs. We want to hear from you, and that's what our HACC community is all about. And so we're so excited to hear from you and to continue to get your vision board for the holiday, and circle back with it closing out for the new year, and talk about some of your other goals and visions that you want for 2021. 2020 has been a rough year, so let's focus on what we can really control and put that forward. And then I'd also like to say thank you again to both of you. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you and your generosity for sharing your book with our caregiver community. Barbara, thank you so much for sending that out to us. We're so excited to have this be a part of giveaways through our online community, and also for those winners that are going to be receiving it today. Before we wrap up, we also encourage everyone from today's webinar session to join the Facebook group that I spoke of. There'll be more activities there to really connect with caregivers. That's our Hidden Heroes caregiver community. It's all about connection, validation, understanding, support, resources. And so if you care for a wounded, ill, or injured service member or veteran, please become part of the community and really find your tribe of people. Be on the lookout for a follow-up email that's going to include a recording of today's webinar, and also the website and more information from Barbara McNally. We're so excited to close this out today and wish you all a very happy holidays. We want to thank everyone for joining, and a big thanks to our partners at the Wounded Warrior Project and the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs for supporting this C3 series. We hope you found this session informative, inspirational. Stay in touch with our caregiver community, and always remember, you are not alone. Happy holidays, everybody. I hope everybody has just a wonderful Thanksgiving. Please remember to be grateful. Think about your vision, maybe creating that gratitude journal. But thank you all so much for being here and taking the time to just hear from Barbara and Ida. And we're grateful for each one of you. So thank you so much. And we hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.